Hello guys, welcome to a new video. This is a video covering the druid, the Resto druid, talents and runes for phase 6 PvP. I saw a few questions about this on the druid Discord and it didn't seem like there was anyone sort of covering this or any real information about this, so I thought I would just put my 2 cents forward on what I use and what I think is very, very good, and what has served me well whilst playing SOD. So, first comments would be that I think comparing the Resto Druid tree to the Priest tree, I think the Druid one is a lot more simpler. It's a lot more rigid in what feels best, in my opinion, though down the line and through phases, some of these things may have changed, but this is what I consider to be the best choices right now for a Resto Druid. So, firstly, we're going to just cover the balance choices. Again, these feel very straightforward if you have a decent understanding of Warcraft. So the choices in the first tier is between the Grasp and the Wrath. Wrath isn't really something that you're going to be casting, like, almost at all. And there's so much good with the Grasps. Any melees that jump on top of you, if you need to get them off you and keep them off you and peel for yourself, and you could do this reliably by getting the improved Grasp, to me it seems like a very straightforward choice. Mana is probably one of the biggest downsides to Resto Druids. So anything that can support on that front, the better. So natural shapeshifter, I think you'll be getting this probably with every druid build anyway, but it's just as important for a Resto Druid. The feral combat, the biggest reason that you would invest points into the feral is to gain feral charge. Feral charge has so much utility, stops spellcasting, stops heals, grants you mobility to alter your positioning. It does so many good things. So it's absolutely worth investing this into it. The increased duration of your stuns is also quite nice. It can buy you an extra global to do whatever it is that you feel that you need to do at that time. A little bit of additional armor is always nice. And between the first tier points, I personally would go with the increased attack power reduction, just for that little bit extra mitigation. And you're not really going to be sitting in bear and cat form for like super long periods of time and attacking that much. I just think compared, you'll get more from the attack power reduction. But it's not a major deal, but that's just what I think. So, for me, the balance in the feral was very set in stone. It's the Resto that can be a little bit flexible and has been a little bit flexible during my time of playing SOD. But this is what I'm currently using. So, Thur is vital in having that rage ready to go for you to use your feral charges. It's the main reason to have it. You put 5 points into Healing Touch, so you gain access to Nature's Swiftness. This also does apply for your Nourish, which makes it a really nice, strong, very quick cast. So it's quite a nice talent to have. Insect Swarm, you put it in basically so you can have access to the Gift of Nature. You're going to notice there's a little bit of theme of this. You put points into something to gain access to something else. Reflection, 15% mana regeneration. This, I think currently for my tree form, maybe gives me about 7 MP5. So it's not a bad investment at all. Though with changes in phase 6, there may be an avenue into taking the points out of this and putting the points into Nature's Focus. I would need to actually PvP which I haven't done for a little while, to kind of figure this out. Now, so it's very gear dependent because, okay, so this is the deal, right? So with phase 6, we now have access to 2.5. 2.5's second bonus can make our innovate 2 minutes and 10 seconds as a cooldown, which is extremely quick and which will help us massively with our mana regeneration. So it's a case of just playing it enough, experiencing enough to decide whether I will need the mana regeneration from this or if I should maintain it. The other reason why I have considered, or I'm considering going extra points into this, is because now that I will be using Regrowth a bit more often, and Nourish as a cast is needed now more than ever, there is probably more value in this talent than there was in previous phases, in my opinion. So this, I suspect, will remain as it is, but I just wanted to put out there as a consideration to maybe change this up, but I'm not 100% sure yet. You put 5 points into Tranquil Spirits. Again, good for your Nourish, good for your instant healing touches from Nature Swiftness. 5 points into Regrowth, and you put your point into Swift Mend. There is some viable talents in balance that you could use, but because you're so tight on points, and because Feral Charge is so good, you can't really afford to drop it. Like the likes of Entangling Roots would be a nice talent to have, but unfortunately it's just the way it is. But inside of the Resto tree, Mark of the Wild is not a bad talent by any means. At 5 points, it gives an extra 100 armor, extra 4 stats, and extra 7 resistances, which is quite nice for your friends. Enrage, I could see a world where Enrage is useful, especially when it comes to improved frenzied regeneration. Subtlety and Tranquility is completely useless for PvP. Rejuvenation, in my opinion, currently is kind of a waste. Some of these talents I have used in previous phases just because at the time it kind of made sense for me to use them. Like, for example, I think it was I would say pre-ZG. I wasn't using Thorough, but I was using Mark of the Wild. The reason? There was a head enchant that gave you Rage, which meant that I didn't need Thorough. When ZG came out, obviously the head enchants came along with that, and they're extremely good. So the trade-off was like, it kind of made more sense to go for the ZG enchants, which means I needed to change things around here. Before I ran Rejuvenation. Now, the talent itself for Rejuvenation isn't that fantastic, but the thing that maybe not everybody is aware is that obviously this affects Swift Mend and how much that heals as well. So yeah, so for current state, I think this is the ideal, and I probably wouldn't move away from this. Again, except from maybe a little bit of experience gained seeing how this feels between these two talents. Other than that, I probably wouldn't change a thing. As far as the runes go, a lot of these there's not really a lot of choice in some of them because it's just like the only heal option, and that it's just a lack of variety, I feel. So the likes of the head, your back rune, your hands, your waist, your legs, your feet, they're all very straightforward choices of what to pick, in my opinion. The rings are a little bit more interesting. I still would advocate for healing specialization to be your number one choice, though the other ring rune slot I think is a little bit more interesting because defense specialization is pretty darn nice because you're going to be getting smashed to pieces. Feral combat is very nice to land the bash and the pounce, so that's kind of cool too. But I think the nature specialization is the one that wins out of all of those options. Some of your spells, but mostly because of the entangling roots, your nature's grasp, and most importantly, you want your fairy fires to land. So you give yourself the best chance of that happening. The other slots that I've not spoken about, I think there's probably times and places where you could switch these around. For chess PvP, survival is absolutely everything, so majority of the time, slap on survival of the fittest, and you're going to feel the benefits of that immediately. But maybe there's times where you don't need a survival so much, you have enough survival about you, you could maybe afford to go Living Seed. I think now more than ever, that is more of an option. And the reason why I say that is in previous phases, I found that I could get away with not needing to cast Nourish that often in PvP. I could rely on the power of Rejuvenation, Life Bloom, Swift Mend, and Wild Growth to keep people alive, but that's proving more and more difficult as there is more damage inside of the game. I find that I need to cast Nourish a lot more often. And with that being said, switching more to a regrowth and Nourish based way of healing obviously is going to trigger a lot more opportunities to crit, which means more chances for Living Seed. So I would say survive most of the time is going to be your best bet. But if you find that you are surviving quite comfortably and you're not being focused so hard, I can see a world where Living Seed can take place instead. And for the wrist slots, Effervescence, in my opinion, is more of a PvE rune. The problem with it in PvP is that players aren't always aware of it. That's one thing, but it's quite rare a battle just takes place in one spot. Like, people are normally moving around, etc. How many people is benefiting from it is another thing to consider. So it's not always getting like full use. So that's kind of one downside to Effervescence, but it's still very nice party raid heal. However, improved frenzy regeneration is king for your own survival. There's such a huge difference of having it and not having it. Once you've seen what you can do and what it can do for you, and you then just use frenzy regeneration without it, it feels absolutely awful. It's essentially like another health bar. Whilst you sit in bear form with amazing amount of armor, amazing amount of health, and the amount this can regenerate is absolutely huge, and it's even bigger when you got survival instincts running it as well. So this is a huge personal survival kit, and most of the time you will be running this, and maybe when it's on cooldown you have flipped to Effervescence. But again, times and places where maybe each of the chest rune and the wrist rune can prove to be better, but typically what this setup here is what you're going to be running as just a baseline. So there we have it. I hope that you got some use out of the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have comments, feel free to leave them, or questions, I will try my best to get back to you. But until the next video, thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.